Okay, what I have here is a hole in the bag bone-in ribeye. You'll find these on sale around Christmas time and Easter time. And because it's such a good deal, it'll be hard for you to find them in the store. So whenever they start the ad, you wanna go to the store as soon as possible and get one. What I'm gonna do is show you how to prep this for a holiday roast. And what I like to do first to open the bag is open it at the sink. So I'm gonna open that up and then we'll get started. Now that the roast is opened out of the bag and the excess purge is down the drain, what I like to do next is remove the extra bone dust from the chuck end of the roast. For a rib roast, they have the chuck end, which separates the ribeye from the chuck roll. And then there's the loin end that separates the ribeye from the short loin. So what I like to do is remove the bone dust, and all I'm using is a avocado slicer as a bone scraper. And it just gets that bone dust off of the end. Because they have to break that cut with a saw. So you're gonna have bone dust. So the next thing I wanna do is I wanna pull back the ribs. So you should have 7 bones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I wanna do is I wanna peel those back and then cut a little bit on this side as well, just to have it connected to the roast, but not fully connected to the roast. And that will help me whenever I go to cook this and season it. And I have guests that like medium rare, and I have guests that like well done. So what I like to do is I remove one rib off of the loin end to make one roast for well done and one roast for medium rare. If you cook it at the same time, you'll achieve both when you're cooking them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off that rib, and I'm gonna follow next to the side of this bone all the way through. And if they did your roast right, you should be able to knife through. You'll see the end bones here. You should be able to knife through all the way. All right, so then that one's all cut off, and then I'll address that one later. Now I'm gonna use my boning knife, and I'm gonna start to cut along the bones, but I don't have to go super close to the bones because I'm planning on cooking ribs later with them. You'll cook it with the roast on at first, and then after you're done and serving your roast, you can slow cook those ribs a little bit more, and then you'll have some nice tender beef ribs. So I'm just peeling those back. All right, so now I got a pretty good flap there. And now I just want to do a little bit on this side. So then it's just a little bit of meat attached. And it'll make this piece nice and pliable too. and it'll help you when you go to serve. Then it's just a cut yourself a steak and then slice. Cut yourself a steak and then slice. And also, if you're in the summer months and you don't want to do a roast, you just fully remove these ribs, and then you have a boneless ribeye, and you can just slice that down for 6. So what we have here is the bones are peeled back and ready for seasoning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my salt, and I'm going to generously go through and do salt. I like to do my salt first because I want to see it. I don't want to go too heavy-handed because I couldn't see it. But I'm just doing a nice dusting on all of the meat and ribs. I'm gonna dust that on the ends too. Dust that again on the end. And that's how it'll roast too. So for the main roast here, I'll be able to use the rib rack as my stand to keep the meat out of the juices so it doesn't get too submerged in the juices. And then for the smaller roast, I'll put a little rack in there because I'm going to be having that one sideways. All right, so then I've coated it with salt. Now I'm going to coat it with black pepper. Just keep things simple with beef. You don't want to go too crazy with flavors. The star of the show is always going to be the beef. Okay. Now I'm going to do inside. All right. So now the black pepper is done. And then the final seasoning that I put on my rib roast is garlic powder. So I did the salt first so I can really see it on the meat and not overdo it. Then I did the black pepper, it does a nice black coating. And then the garlic powder is going to lighten it up, and then I'll be able to see that coating as well. will just barely fit in that roaster. And that is why I cut off the one rib for another point, but it also gives me the 2 cooking temperatures as I spoke about before. So now we'll just peel this bone back. It'll be a lot easier. It's just one bone. All right. So I've just got that little piece of meat holding that thing on right there. All right, now I'll do the same thing with this one as I did with the other one. I want to dust it with salt. All right. All right, so this one is already salted. So now I'm going to do black pepper. I'm trying to do this at least 24 hours before I need to cook it. So this is the day before Christmas Eve. So I'll have a nice marinating time there. All right, and then last is garlic powder again. And I will be using a Clorox wipe to clean off my seasoning containers after. All right, and there's a smaller one. And that is how you season and prep the rib roast for your holiday feast. Okay, for preparing your holiday roast, I now have them out of the refrigerator from being marinated with the seasoning, and I have my barbecue pit set as high as possible, and I have silicone oven mitts for whenever I need to flip the roast, because you really need hands-on with that kind of weight. So now what I'm going to do is do 10 minutes per side, and I'm going to do bone side down for the large roast and one side at a time for the small roast. The second round will be kind of iffy because of the temperature. We'll let the grease go down to the U-pan of my grill and may cause a grease fire, but it's going to be contained in the barbecue pit and not really that big of an issue. You just need to pull it out if it starts flaming in there a little early. And then we have a slight breeze, so that might happen. So I have them on the grill. I'm going to close the lid for 10 minutes and flip them. Okay, it's been 10 minutes, and now I'm going to flip it over for the other side, and that's where it could be 10 minutes or it could be a little shorter depending on how grease comes off of that cap fat. While the roasts are grilling, I prep the smaller roasts with a oven bag and the silicone rack like I mentioned earlier, so it's not resting in the juices the whole time. Okay, I was able to do the 10 minutes on the fat side down. I've done this enough times to know that as soon as I change the pressure of that grill by lifting the lid up, it will ignite the grease fire that's in the U-pan design of this grill. So I'm standing on the opposite side of the wind blowing, and I'm going to lift it up, give you a show, and then I will take them off of there. Okay, I have the roasts off the grill. I have a temperature probe in the largest part of the roast here that hooks up to my oven, and I put 2 cups of hot water into this one, and I put 1 cup of hot water into this one, shrinking the oven bag down to size, and I have the oven preheated at 200 degrees for both. Okay, I got the one roast in with the probe in the bottom oven, and I have the other roast at the top oven, both at 200 degrees, and the probe is set to go off at 130 degrees, which should take me about 6 hours to cook, and it's currently at 39 degrees. Okay, the rib roast is out of the oven now. I have the well done and the medium rare. What I'm doing is now is letting it rest for 20 minutes while I do the gravy from the drippings. I will remove the tail fat from both roasts, and then it will be ready to slice whenever it's done resting. Okay, the rib is done resting. I cut the rib off of the small roast to make it easier to stand and carve, and then I cut the tail fat off of both roasts, so it's a lot easier to serve that way. So now it's all ready to serve, and you have your holiday roast.